It was supposed to be just another night, another reckless comment, another viral moment that would fade by morning, but this time, something snapped. Because what Boosie Badazz said wasn't just disrespectful, it was personal, it was targeted. And according to sources close to the situation, it was the final straw that pushed T.I. into a level of rage that nobody, not even his own team, had ever seen before. We're talking about a moment so intense, so explosive, that insiders are now claiming it nearly turned into something fatal. Yes, now you heard that right. Fatal. Because just hours after Boosie publicly mocked T.I.'s son again, doubling down with what many are calling humiliating and crossing every line possible, things didn't stay online. No, they moved into the real world, behind closed doors. Hidden phone calls were made, voices were raised, threats were allegedly thrown around, and then something happened that nobody saw coming. A location, a confrontation, and a situation that, according to multiple so-called insider reports, almost turned into a full-blown violent showdown. Fans are divided. Celebrities are going silent. And social media? It's already exploding with theories, leaked voice notes, and claims that this drama is way bigger than anyone thought. So the question is, did T.I. really lose control? Did Boosie go too far this time? And what exactly happened during that night that has everyone whispering the same terrifying phrase? He almost didn't make it out. Because what we're about to break down changes everything, and trust me, this is only the beginning. To understand how things spiraled this far, you have to go back. Yeah, because this wasn't just some random outburst. This wasn't just two rappers exchanging words for clout. This was a slow-burning feud that had been building for years, layer by layer, insult by insult, until it finally reached a breaking point nobody could control. At the center of it all, two of the most outspoken, controversial voices in hip-hop. T.I., a self-proclaimed king, a veteran who built his empire on respect, discipline, and authority. And Boosie Badazz, unpredictable, raw, unfiltered, a man who has never cared about backlash, consequences, or crossing the line. And then, there's the third name in this situation, the one that turned this from rap drama into something deeply personal, King Harris. Because once family gets involved, everything changes. For years, T.I. and Boosie weren't enemies. In fact, they moved in similar circles, shared platforms, even showed mutual respect at times. Both were known for speaking their minds. Both built loyal fan bases by refusing to stay silent. But that same trait, that same unfiltered honesty, it's exactly what slowly started tearing things apart. Because while T.I. tried to evolve, stepping into business, activism, and a more polished public image, Boosie stayed exactly where he'd always been. Unfiltered, loud, and completely unapologetic. And that difference? It created tension. Things first started getting uncomfortable when Boosie began publicly disagreeing with T.I. on multiple topics. Interviews, podcasts, random Instagram lives, everywhere. He didn't hold back. At first, it seemed like normal debate, just two strong personalities clashing. But then, the tone changed. The respect? It started fading. Insiders claim the real shift happened when Boosie began making personal comments instead of just disagreeing with opinions. And not just about T.I., but about his family. And specifically, about his son, King Harris. Now, if you've been watching closely, you already know King Harris hasn't exactly stayed out of the spotlight. He's been vocal, controversial, and at times openly rebellious against his father's image. Social media clips started going viral. Arguments, statements, moments that people began dissecting, mocking, and turning into memes. And unfortunately, Boosie was one of the loudest voices joining in. At first it seemed like jokes, light jabs, nothing too serious. But over time, those jokes turned sharper, more direct, more disrespectful. And according to people close to T.I., that's when things started getting dangerous. Because for T.I., this wasn't just about public image anymore. This was about his son being humiliated in front of millions. And worse, it was being done by someone who understood exactly how far those words could travel. Exactly how damaging they could be. Sources claim T.I. initially tried to ignore it, tried to stay silent, tried to handle things behind the scenes. There were alleged attempts to reach out privately, to calm things down, to keep it from escalating. But Boosie? He didn't stop. If anything, he got louder. One insider, who claims to have been present during a private conversation, allegedly said, I was warning him. Like, you playing with something serious now. But Boosie just laughed it off. And that laugh, that dismissal, it stuck. Because not long after that, Boosie went on another public rant. And this time, he didn't just mention King Harris, he mocked him directly, calling him out, questioning him, making statements that fans instantly clipped, shared, and turned into viral content within minutes. Social media exploded. Some people laughed. Some people agreed, but others, they were uncomfortable. Because it no longer felt like entertainment. It felt like something deeper, something darker, and then something even more concerning started happening. Fans began tagging T.I. everywhere, flooding his comments, sending him clips, pushing him to respond, pushing him to react, pushing him into a corner. And if there's one thing everyone knows about T.I., it's this. He doesn't like being disrespected, especially not publicly. And definitely not when it involves his family. But here's where things take an even more intense turn. Because according to multiple leaked reports circulating online, this wasn't just a public feud anymore. It had quietly started shifting behind the scenes. Phone calls, heated conversations, mutual connections trying and failing to calm things down. And whispers that this situation was heading somewhere very dangerous. One alleged source claimed it wasn't rap beef anymore. It felt personal, like something bad was going to happen if nobody stepped in. But nobody did. Or maybe nobody could, because just when people thought things might cool down, Boosie made another move, another comment, another jab. And this time, it hit harder than anything before. He didn't just mock King Harris again. He doubled down, with a tone that many described as mocking, aggressive, and intentionally provoking. And that moment, that exact moment, according to insiders, is when everything changed. Because what happened next wasn't supposed to happen, wasn't planned, and definitely wasn't meant to go as far as it did. But once emotions took over, there was no stopping it. And what followed would push this entire situation into a level of chaos that nobody, not even the people involved, were ready for. And trust me, the confrontation that came next, it wasn't just shocking, it was terrifying. Because this is where things stop being about words and start becoming about something much, much worse. And what Boosie didn't realize is that this time, he may have pushed T.I. too far. It all reached a breaking point on a night that, at first, Yin looked completely normal. No warning, no public announcement, no sign that anything was about to explode. But behind the scenes, everything was already boiling over. According to multiple so-called insider reports, Boosie Badazz had just gone live again. And what started as another casual rant quickly turned into something far more calculated. Because this time, he wasn't just reacting, he was targeting. Clips from the live began circulating within minutes. At first, people thought it was the usual Boosie. Loud, animated, saying whatever came to mind. But then, he said it again. He brought up King Harris, not casually, not indirectly, but with a tone that fans instantly recognized as mockery mixed with provocation. He laughed, repeated certain phrases, dragged the moment out. Ian then dropped a line that, according to fans, crossed every possible line. Within seconds, the comments exploded. People started tagging T.I. like crazy. Yo, you seeing this? He wildin' now. This ain't funny no more. And that's when something changed. Because unlike before, I didn't stay silent. Sources claim that within minutes of that clip going viral, calls were being made. Not casual ones, not friendly ones, but urgent, aggressive, and filled with tension. One alleged insider described it like this. You could hear it in his voice, like he wasn't playing no more. This wasn't about the internet. He wanted to handle it face to face. Face to face. That phrase alone? It sent chills through people who knew how serious things were getting, because when situations move offline, they become unpredictable, dangerous, and uncontrollable. And then, something happened that nobody expected. A location was allegedly shared. Quietly, privately, no social media, no cameras. Just a message. Passed through the right people. And according to multiple circulating reports. Boosie didn't back down. Instead of ignoring it, instead of avoiding the situation, he showed up. Now, what exactly happened next depends on who you ask. Because the details, they're messy, conflicting, and in some cases, terrifying. Some sources claim it was supposed to be a conversation, a chance to clear things up, to set boundaries, to stop things from escalating further. But others, they're saying that from the moment both sides arrived, there was already tension in the air so thick, it felt like it could snap at any second. Raised voices, aggressive body language, people stepping in between them, trying to calm things down before it got out of control. But here's the problem. When emotions reach that level, logic disappears. And according to one alleged witness, that's exactly what happened. They wasn't talking. They was arguing, loud, angry. It didn't feel like a conversation. It felt like something was about to go wrong. Then came the moment that would change everything. Because as the argument intensified, one comment was made. We still don't know exactly what was said, but every source agrees on one thing. It involved King Harris, again. And that's when something inside T.I. snapped. Reports claim he lunged forward, not hesitating, not holding back, fueled by pure anger. People rushed in, tried to separate them, voices shouting, chaos breaking out. And for a few seconds, it felt like things were about to spiral into something far worse. One insider described it in a way that still has fans shaken. It wasn't just a fight. It felt like he lost control, like he wasn't thinking anymore. Now here's where the story takes a dark twist, because according to certain circulating claims, someone shouted something that immediately froze the entire situation. Chill, this ain't going there. But what does there mean? That's where things get disturbing, because some reports are suggesting that this wasn't just about throwing punches anymore. There are whispers, unconfirmed but spreading fast, that the situation was dangerously close to turning into something life-threatening. No weapons were confirmed, no official reports, but the energy of the moment, according to witnesses, in it was heading in a direction that scared everyone involved. And just like that, the entire room shifted. People pulled T.I. back. Others stepped between him and Boosie. Voices dropped from shouting and to tense, controlled warnings. Because everyone there realized something terrifying. This wasn't just rap beef anymore, this was real. And then, just as quickly as it exploded, it stopped. Boosie was escorted out, T.I. was held back, and both sides left. But not before exchanging one final look. A look that, according to one witness, said everything that didn't need to be said. And just when you think that would be the end of it, that things would calm down, that both sides would take a step back, that's when the first twist hit. Because within hours, something leaked. Not footage, not audio, but messages, alleged messages, circulating online, claiming to show what was said after the confrontation. And if those messages are real, then what happened that night was just the beginning, because one line in particular has fans losing their minds. Next time, it won't stop. No confirmation, no denial, just that one sentence, spreading like wildfire across social media. And suddenly, everything got worse. Because now the question isn't just what happened that night, it's what happens next. And if those words meant what people think they meant, then this situation, it's far from over. If you thought things would calm down after that night, you couldn't have been more wrong, because instead of fading away, this situation exploded, and it didn't just stay behind closed doors anymore. It went public. Within hours of those alleged messages leaking, social media turned into a battlefield. Clips, screenshots, voice note rumors, everything started circulating at once, and suddenly, what was once whispers and insider talk became a full-blown viral war. The name T.I. was trending, so was Boosie Badazz. And even more shockingly, so was King Harris. But this time, it wasn't just jokes or debates, it was chaos. Fake leaked DMs started popping up everywhere. Some claimed to show T.I. warning Boosie to stay away from his family. Others showed Boosie allegedly laughing it off, mocking the entire situation like it was just another viral moment. One viral post, shared thousands of times within minutes, read, "He really thought it was sweet until it wasn't." And just like that, the narrative shifted. Because now people weren't just asking what happened. They were picking sides. Team T.I., Team Boosie. No middle ground, no neutrality, just pure division. Then came the voice note rumors, unverified, unconfirmed. But everywhere, clips allegedly containing aggressive tones, people claiming they could hear threats, others saying it was edited, fake, manipulated. But here's the thing about the internet. It doesn't wait for proof. It reacts. And the reactions, they were intense. Some fans defended T.I. saying, "He warned him, he told him to stop. You can't keep disrespecting someone's kid like that." Others fired back, "Nah, Boosie just speaking his mind. You can't try to control what people say." And then there were the people in the middle, the ones who weren't laughing anymore. Because suddenly, this didn't feel like entertainment. It felt dangerous. But just when things couldn't get more intense, they did. Because that's when a new claim surfaced, a claim that changed everything. According to a so-called industry insider, the confrontation that night wasn't the first one. Let that sink in. Not the first. The claim suggested that there had been previous attempts to handle this situation privately. Conversations, warnings, tense meetups that never made it to the public. And if that's true, then this wasn't just a sudden explosion. This was something that had been building behind the scenes for a long time. But here's where it gets even more shocking. Another alleged leak started circulating. And this one, it had people genuinely concerned. It claimed that after the confrontation, there were plans. Not confirmed, not proven, but heavily discussed online. Plans to handle things differently next time. And suddenly, that one leaked line, "Next time, it won't stop," started feeling a lot more serious. Because now it wasn't just words. It was being interpreted as a warning, a threat. And people began asking questions no one wanted to ask. Was this going to escalate further? Was there going to be another confrontation? And if there was, would it end the same way or worse? Even celebrities started reacting. Subtle tweets, cryptic posts, messages that didn't name names, but everyone knew exactly who they were about. One artist tweeted, "Some lines you just don't cross, especially when it's family." Another responded, "Y'all too emotional. It's words, not war." And just like that, the divide grew deeper. But then came the moment that truly shook everything. Because while the internet was still debating, a new clip surfaced. Not from the confrontation, not from that night, but from earlier that same day. And in that clip, Boosie was seen laughing, relaxed, unbothered, talking about the situation like it was nothing, like it wasn't about to spiral out of control. And that clip, It changed how people saw everything. Because now the narrative split even further. Was Boosie unaware of how serious things had gotten? Or did he know exactly what he was doing? Was this all just reckless behavior or intentional provocation? And more importantly, did he underestimate how far T.I. was willing to go? Because according to some insiders, that's exactly what happened. He thought it was just internet talk. He didn't think it would turn real like that. But it did. And now, the consequences were unfolding in real time. Security around both sides reportedly increased. Appearances became limited. Movements became more private. And behind the scenes, tension was still there, unresolved, unfinished, because no apology had been made, no statements had cleared things up, no one had officially backed down. And when situations like that stay open, they don't disappear, they grow. And that's exactly what was happening, because just when people thought things might finally slow down, another question started spreading across social media. What if that night wasn't the worst part? And that question, it's what's keeping everyone watching, waiting, refreshing their feeds, because if everything we've seen so far was just the buildup, then what's coming next might be something nobody is ready for. And trust me, the reactions, they're about to get even louder. By the time the dust should have settled, it didn't. It got louder. Way louder. Because now, this wasn't just a private feud that leaked online. This had turned into a full-scale cultural moment. The kind that pulls in fans, critics, celebrities, bloggers, everyone. And once that happens, there's no controlling the narrative anymore. Within hours, hashtags tied to T.I. and Boosie Badazz were dominating timelines. Clips were being reposted faster than anyone could keep track. Old interviews were resurfacing, past comments were being reanalyzed like hidden clues in a mystery, and suddenly, people weren't just reacting to what happened. They were rewriting the entire history between them. Some fans started digging up older moments where Boosie had previously joked about other artists' families. Others pulled clips of T.I. speaking about respect, discipline, and how far is too far. And that's when the debate turned explosive. On one side, you had people defending T.Y. with intense passion. You don't play with a man's child. Period. He gave warnings, he tried to keep it private. Boosie kept pushing. At some point, words stopped being jokes. On the other side, just as loud, just as aggressive. This is hip-hop. People talk. If you can't handle it, stay off the internet. Boosie had been the same person forever. Why act surprised now? You can't threaten someone over words. And right in the middle of all this, you had the name that kept getting dragged deeper into the storm. King Harris. Because now, he wasn't just part of the story. He was the story. Fans started analyzing his every move, his past videos, his statements, his attitude, turning him into a symbol of everything this situation represented. And that's when things got uncomfortable, because the conversation shifted from rap beef to something much more personal. People began asking, is this about parenting? Is this about respect? Or is this about ego? And just like that, the internet split into even more factions. Meanwhile, inside the industry, silence. At first, a lot of artists stayed quiet, watched from a distance, didn't want to get involved, because situations like this, they're unpredictable, and choosing the wrong side can cost you relationships. But silence doesn't last long in moments like this. Eventually, the reactions started slipping through. Subtle tweets, cryptic Instagram captions, stories that disappeared after a few hours, but not before screenshots captured everything. One artist posted, "This ain't entertainment no more, this real life." Another wrote, "Some people don't know when to stop, until it's too late." And just like that, the tone changed again. Because now it wasn't just fans arguing, it was people inside the industry. acknowledging that this had gone too far, but not everyone agreed. Some voices defended Boosie's right to speak freely, saying that censorship, even social pressure, was a dangerous line. Others argued that freedom of speech doesn't mean freedom from consequences, and that debate? It got heated. Podcasts started covering it. The YouTube channels began breaking it down frame by frame. TikTok creators turned it into a series of theories, timelines, and hidden truths. Everyone had an opinion. Everyone had a take. Everyone claimed to know what really happened. But the truth, it was getting harder to find, because for every leak, there was another version. For every claim, there was a counterclaim. And in the middle of all this noise, the people actually involved, they stayed mostly silent. No official statements, no clear explanations, no confirmations. Just tension, and that silence, it made everything worse, because when there's no clarity, people create their own. Rumors turned into facts. Speculation turned into evidence. And suddenly, the story took on a life of its own. Some even started suggesting something bigger, something deeper, that this wasn't just about one comment, or one confrontation, or even one night. That this was about years of tension, unspoken issues, egos colliding in a way that was always destined to explode. And if that's true, then what we've seen so far might just be the surface. Because one post, shared quietly but picked up quickly, said something that stuck with everyone. Y'all think it's over? This ain't even the worst part. And that line, it spread like wildfire, because if this isn't the worst part, then what is? What could possibly happen next? That's worse than what we've already seen. That question, it's what's keeping everyone locked in. Watching, waiting, refreshing. Because deep down, everyone feels it. This isn't finished, not even close. And whatever comes next, it might change everything we thought we knew about this situation. And just when people thought they had the story figured out, a new piece of information started to surface. And this one, it doesn't just add to the drama, it flips it completely. Because if this final twist is true, then everything you've heard so far might only be half the story. Just when the internet thought it had reached the peak, just when everyone believed they understood what happened that night, everything flipped. Because a new claim surfaced. And this one? It didn't just add fuel to the fire, it changed the entire narrative. According to a so-called insider, someone claiming to be close to both camps, what happened that night wasn't supposed to happen at all. Not like that. Not that intense, not that dangerous. Because the meeting between T.I. and Boosie Badazz was allegedly meant to be something else entirely. A setup, but not in the way you think. Not a trap, not an ambush, but a controlled intervention. The claim suggests that mutual connections, people who respected both sides, had been trying to bring them together privately, to end the tension, to clear the air, to stop things before they went too far. And according to this insider, both sides agreed, reluctantly. But they agreed, which means that night was never supposed to explode. So what went wrong? That's where things get chilling. Because the same source claims that something happened right before the confrontation. Something that nobody has been talking about. A message. Not the one that leaked later. Not the next time it won't stop line. A different one. One that was allegedly shown just minutes before both sides came face to face. And according to the claim, that message changed everything. We don't know exactly what it said. We don't know who sent it. But we do know this. The moment it was seen, the tone shifted. What was supposed to be a conversation turned into confrontation. What was supposed to be controlled turned into chaos. And here's where the twist gets even darker. Because some people are now asking a question that nobody expected. What if someone wanted it to go that way? What if this wasn't just two people losing control, but something that was quietly pushed in that direction. Now, before you jump to conclusions, there's no proof, no confirmation, just whispers. But those whispers, they're getting louder. Because another detail started circulating shortly after. A name. Not confirmed, not verified, but repeated enough times to make people pay attention. Someone who was allegedly present that night, but hasn't been mentioned publicly. Someone who may have played a role in escalating the situation. Right at the worst possible moment. And suddenly, the story isn't just about T.I. and Boosie anymore. It's about who else was involved. Because if there really was someone behind the scenes, pulling strings, fueling emotions, then this situation, it's a lot bigger than anyone thought. And here's the part that has people truly unsettled. Because according to that same insider, after everything calmed down, after both sides left, after the chaos ended, there was a conversation, a quiet one. And in that conversation, one line was allegedly said that hasn't stopped echoing online since. This wasn't supposed to happen like this. But now it's too late. Too late? Too late for what? That's the question no one can answer. Because if this really was supposed to be a peaceful resolution, then something or someone turned it into something else. And if that's true, then what we witnessed wasn't just a moment of anger. It was the start of something much bigger. Because now both sides are silent. More silent than ever. No posts, no reactions, no clarifications. And that kind of silence? It doesn't mean peace, it means tension. It means things are happening. Just not in public. And the scariest part? People close to the situation are now saying, this isn't over, not even close. Because if there really are unanswered questions, if there really are hidden details, if there really are people behind the scenes, then what happens next might not stay contained, might not stay controlled, and might not end the same way it did before. Because now, it's no longer just about disrespect, or ego, or words. It's about something deeper, something unresolved, something that feels like it's still building, waiting for the next moment to explode. And when it does, it might not stop this time, because whatever happened that night, it didn't end anything, it started something. And the next chapter might be the one nobody walks away from. So the real question is, are we about to see this situation escalate again? Or has something already been set in motion? And because if the rumors are true, then the most shocking part of the story hasn't even happened yet. Now I want to hear from you. Because after everything we just broke down, after the alleged confrontation, the leaked messages, the insider claims, the silence, one question still remains. What do you actually believe happened that night? Do you think T.I. was pushed too far? Or did Boosie Badazz knowingly cross a line that should never have been touched? And more importantly, was this really just a heated moment that got out of control? Or is there something much bigger happening behind the scenes that we still don't fully understand? Because let's be real for a second. Nothing about this situation feels normal anymore. Not the timing, not the silence, not the way everything escalated so fast. And what about King Harris? Do you think he should have ever been dragged into this in the first place? Or do you believe this is just part of what comes with being in the spotlight? I need you to go down into the comments right now and tell me, Team T.I. or Team Boosie? Who was wrong? And do you think this situation is really over? Or is something even bigger coming next? Don't hold back. Say exactly what you think, because this story is far from finished, and your opinion might be part of what shapes the next update. If you made it this far, you already know. This isn't just another celebrity story. This is something that feels like it's still unfolding in real time. So make sure you like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because if anything else drops, any new footage, any real confirmation, Any unexpected twist? You already know we're going to break it down immediately, and trust me, based on everything we've seen so far, this story is only getting started.